The trade station above Vexara Prime was huge. It floated in black space like a city made of metal and lights. Ships from every corner of the galaxy came here to buy and sell. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked the long corridors. Some had scales, some had tentacles, some glowed, some clicked when they talked. Rules were simple. No fighting, no weapons, pay your fees, and the Galactic Concord security bots would leave you alone. Princess Lyrael stepped off the small passenger shuttle wearing a plain gray cloak with a deep hood. No one could see her face clearly. No gold crowns, no bright robes, no guards. She wanted it that way. At home in the Voran Palace, everyone stared at her. They whispered, they bowed too low, or not low enough. They always noticed the problem. Her skin was supposed to shine with steady blue light. All Voran nobles had that glow. It showed health, strength, and royal blood. But Lyrael's light flickered. Sometimes it dimmed to almost nothing. Sometimes it jumped like a broken lamp. Doctors called it a defect. Her father, the Emperor, called it shame. Her older sisters shone perfectly. They got invitations to balls and marriage offers from powerful houses. Lyrael got polite smiles and empty rooms. She came to the station alone because she was tired of waiting for help that never came. There was a rumor about a rare crystal called a steady stone. It grew only in deep caves on a dead moon. When tuned right, it could calm wild bioluminescence. She had saved secret credits for months to buy one. If it worked, maybe things would change. Maybe her father would look at her without disappointment in his eyes. The lower markets were crowded and noisy. Bright signs flashed in 100 languages. Smells mixed together, spicy foods, hot metal, alien sweat, engine oil. Lyrael kept her head down and walked fast. She avoided the fancy upper levels, where nobles shopped. Down here, sellers did not care about titles. They cared about credits. She found the stall she wanted, after asking 3 different traders. A small sign read, Harlan Repairs, Fix Anything. Tools and broken parts covered every surface. Wires hung like vines. A human man sat on a stool, welding a thick cable. Sparks flew in bright orange bursts. He wore dirty coveralls and had short dark hair with some gray at the sides. His face looked tired but calm. Lyrael stepped closer. "Excuse me," she said softly. Her voice came out shaky under the hood. The man looked up. He turned off the welder. "Yeah? What you need fixed?" "I am looking for a steady stone crystal. The small kind. For personal use." He scratched his chin. "Steady stone? Rare stuff. I think I have 1 piece left. Cracked, though. Seller said it still holds a tune, but no promises." He stood up and walked to the back of the stall. Boxes and shelves were stacked high. He came back with a small cloth bag. Inside was a dull purple crystal the size of a thumb. A thin crack ran along one side. "This is it," he said. "Not pretty, but I tested it once. It quiets wild energy fields pretty good." "How much?" Lyrael asked. She opened her small purse. Credits were low. The man looked at her for a long moment. He saw the way her hands shook a little. He saw the hood pulled low, like she did not want to be seen. He saw the exhaustion in her shoulders. He closed the bag and pushed it toward her. "No charge." She froze. "What?" "Take it. Looks like you need it more than I need the space on my shelf. Been sitting here for months anyway." "But I can pay," she said quickly. He shook his head. "Nah. Keep your credits. Buy yourself something to eat instead. You look like you haven't slept in days." Lyrael stared at the bag. No one had ever given her anything without wanting something back. At court, every gift had a price. Every smile had a plan behind it. This human just gave it away. "Why?" she asked quietly. He shrugged. "Why not? It's cracked. Can't sell it for much, and you seem like you're in a bad spot. Simple as that." She took the bag with careful fingers. The crystal felt cool through the cloth. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will not forget this." He gave a small smile. "No need to thank me. Just take care of yourself, okay?" Someone pushed past her in the crowd. Lirel stumbled. The man caught her arm gently to steady her. "Easy there. These corridors get rough." She nodded. Her hood slipped back just a little. Blue light flickered across her cheek for a second. Weak, unsteady. His eyes widened slightly, but he did not say anything about it. He just let go and stepped back. Lirel pulled the hood down again. "I should go." "Safe travels," he said, already turning back to his welding torch. She walked away fast. The crowd swallowed her. Her heart beat hard. In her hand, the small bag felt heavy with possibility. Back in her rented room on the station, she locked the door. She sat on the narrow bed and opened the cloth. The cracked crystal caught the dim light and threw tiny purple sparks. She held it against her chest, right over her heart, where the glow started. For a long minute, nothing happened. Then the flickering slowed. The jumps became smaller. The dimming stopped. A steady, soft blue light spread across her arms. It was not perfect, not as bright as her sister's, but it was even, calm, real. Tears came to her eyes. She had not cried in years, not since she was a child, and her mother told her the defect might never go away. Now the light stayed steady. She laughed, a small, surprised sound. She thought of the human again, his dirty coveralls, his tired eyes, his simple words. No charge. He did not know who she was. He did not ask for favors. He just helped. Lirel stood up. She looked at herself in the small mirror on the wall. The blue glow on her skin looked alive for the first time in so long. She whispered to the empty room, "One small thing, and everything feels different." She did not know yet how true those words would become. Outside, the station kept turning. Ships came and left. Traders shouted prices. Lights blinked in every color. And somewhere in the lower markets, Jake Harlan picked up his welding torch again, fixed another broken cable, and thought nothing more about the cloaked stranger he had helped that day. He had no idea he had just changed the future of an empire. Weeks passed after Lirel left the trade station. She returned to the Vorin Palace moon with the cracked crystal hidden inside her cloak. No one asked where she had been. No one noticed she had left. Servants bowed as always, but their eyes stayed cold. Her sisters laughed behind closed doors. Her father, the emperor, stayed in his throne room, busy with maps and messages from angry nobles. But something was different now. Lirel stood in front of the tall mirror in her private chambers. She opened her robe slowly. The blue light on her skin no longer jumped or faded. It glowed soft and even, like calm water under moonlight. She touched her arm. The light stayed steady. She smiled, a real smile, small but warm. For the first time in many years, she did not feel broken. Word spread slowly at first. A maid saw the change and told another maid. A guard noticed the princess walking taller and whispered to his friend. Soon, courtiers talked in quiet corners. The third princess. Her glow is stable. How? No one knows. Maybe the doctors finally found something. The emperor heard the rumors during a late-night council meeting. He stopped the advisor mid-sentence. "Show me," he said. They brought Lirel to the throne room the next morning. She walked in alone, head high, no flickering light to hide. The emperor stared. His old, sharp eyes narrowed. He stood up from the heavy throne and stepped closer. He lifted her chin with 2 fingers and studied her face. The glow held, steady, strong enough to light his palm. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the emperor smiled, a rare thin smile. "Well," he said, "it seems my youngest has surprised us all." From that day, things changed fast. Lirel received invitations she had never seen before. Dinners with important guests, places at the council table. Her sisters stopped ignoring her. They smiled too sweetly now, watching her like hawks. Nobles who once laughed sent gifts. Silk robes, rare flowers, boxes of jewels. They wanted to be close to the princess who suddenly mattered again. But Lirel felt strange in the middle of it all. The attention was loud and heavy. Everyone wanted something. They bowed deeper, they spoke softer, they lied with perfect faces. She kept thinking about the human in the lower market. His dirty hands, his simple words, no charge. He had not asked her name. He had not cared about her title. He just helped. One night, when the palace was quiet, she sat at her desk and opened the station's public records on a small screen. She typed Harlan repairs. A short file appeared. Jake Harlan, human, age 34, former Earth Navy support crew, now a freelance mechanic on Vexara Prime Station. No crimes, no debts, sent small payments to a sister on a colony world called New Dawn. That was all. Then she closed the screen and stared at the wall. She wanted to thank him, not with gold or titles, just properly. 3 weeks later, she returned to the station. This time she did not hide. She wore silver robes with the Vorin crest on the shoulder. 4 guards walked behind her, tall, silent, armed with energy spears. Traders in the upper markets bowed low. Whispers followed her like wind. She went straight to the lower levels. Jake's stall looked the same. Tools everywhere. A half-broken engine sat on the workbench. He was under it, banging something with a wrench. Grease covered his arms up to the elbows. Lirel stopped at the entrance. Her guards waited outside. Jake heard footsteps and slid out. He wiped his hands on a rag and looked up. His eyes went wide for a second when he saw the robes, the crest, the guards. Then he recognized her face. "You," he said. A small grin appeared. "The crystal girl. Looks like it worked." Lirel felt her cheeks warm. "Yes, it worked very well. Better than I hoped." "Good. Told you it might hold." He leaned against the workbench. "So, you're a princess, huh?" She nodded. "Princess Lirel of House Vorin, 3rd daughter of the Emperor." Jake whistled low. "Didn't see that coming. You looked like someone who just needed a break that day." "I did," she said softly. "And you gave me one. I came to thank you. Properly." He waved a hand. "No need. It was just a cracked rock." "It was not just a rock to me." She stepped closer. "You did not know who I was. You did not want anything. No one has ever done that for me." Jake scratched the back of his neck. "Look, I fix things. Sometimes people are things that need fixing too, or at least a hand up. That's all it was." She smiled. "Still, I would like to repay you." He laughed, a short, easy sound. "Buy me a beer sometime, if you're ever on a human world. That's plenty." Lirel tilted her head. "Beer? Human drink. Makes bad days better." "I will remember that." They stood quiet for a moment. The market noise filled the silence. Shouts, engines, footsteps. Then Jake said, "You want to see how this engine works? It's a mess, but I'm almost done." Lirel looked at the guards. They looked stiff and unhappy. She waved them back. "Stay outside." She stepped into the stall. For the next hour, Jake showed her tools. He explained wires and coils in simple words. She asked questions. He answered without talking down. She even held a wrench once and tightened a bolt. Her hands shook at first, but she got it right. Jake laughed when she smiled at the small victory. "See, you're a natural." When she left, she felt lighter. The guards looked confused, but she did not care. Then, the week after. Each time she wore simpler clothes. Each time the guards waited farther away. Jake taught her more. How to spot a bad circuit. How to patch a leaking coolant line. How humans made tools from junk and still made them work. She told him small things about her world, the palace gardens, the way stars looked from the moon's surface. She never talked about politics or power. He never asked. They shared bad jokes. He told her human ones that made no sense to her. She told him foreign ones that made him laugh anyway. One day she asked, "Why do you stay here? You could go home, to Earth." Jake shrugged. "Earth's crowded. My sister needs the money more than I need a fancy life. And here, I like fixing things no one else can." "You fixed me," she said quietly. He looked at her. "Nah, you fixed yourself. I just gave you the part." But Lirel knew it was more than that. The visits became something she looked forward to. A secret corner of her life, where no one bowed, no one lied, no one expected anything. Jake never treated her like a princess. He treated her like a friend. And in a galaxy full of crowns and schemes, that felt like magic. The station kept spinning. Ships came and went. But in the small stall in the lower market, two very different people talked, laughed, and slowly built something neither of them expected, a friendship. And somewhere deep in the palace, plans began to move. The Emperor watched his third daughter more closely now. He heard the whispers about her visits to the station. He did not like unknowns. But Lirael did not know that yet. She only knew that for the first time she felt seen, not as a defective princess, but as herself. And it all started with one small, cracked crystal. The palace moon of Vorin hung quiet in the night sky. Stars sparkled cold and far away. Inside the high towers, everything looked normal. Servants moved silently. Lights glowed soft blue. Guards stood at every door. But under the calm surface, anger grew like a storm no one could see yet. For many years, some noble houses hated the emperor. They said he ruled too hard. They said his taxes hurt trade. They said his family was weak. They pointed at Lirael's old defect as proof. Even after her glow became steady, they whispered that the bloodline was still broken. They waited for the right moment. That moment came on a quiet evening. A fleet of black ships appeared without warning. They carried the flags of House Krell, House Taran, and 3 other powerful families. The rebel ships fired warning shots at the outer defense ring. Alarms screamed through the palace. Red lights flashed everywhere. The Emperor called an emergency meeting. He stood in the war room with his generals. Screens showed the enemy ships closing in. "They dare attack the heart of the Empire?" he said, voice low and angry. Before anyone could answer, explosions rocked the lower levels. Rebel troops had already landed. They used hidden tunnels built long ago for escape. Now they used them to attack. Chaos filled the halls. Guards fought back, but the rebels moved fast. They knew every secret door. They cut power to whole sections. Lights died. Weapons fired in dark corridors. Lirael was in her private garden when the first blast hit. Flowers shook. Dirt fell from the ceiling. She ran toward the main hall. 2 guards followed her. "Stay behind us, Highness," one shouted. They turned a corner and saw rebels. Soldiers in dark armor with red shoulder marks. Energy rifles lit up the walls. One guard fell. The other pushed Lirael behind a statue. "Run!" he yelled. She ran. She knew the palace like her own hand. She slipped through a side passage, then another. She hid in a small storage room. She pressed her back to the wall and tried to breathe quiet. Outside, the fighting grew louder. Shouts, explosions, the smell of burned metal. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange in the dark. Then the door opened. Rough hands grabbed her arms. Rebel soldiers pulled her out. They tied her wrists with tight cords. They pushed her down long halls. Bodies lay on the floor. Guards, servants, even a few nobles who tried to fight. They took her to the grand audience chamber. The Emperor's throne sat empty. Rebels stood everywhere. A tall man in black armor stepped forward. Lord Varrock of House Krell. His face was hard, his eyes cold. "Princess Lyrael," he said, "your father's time is over. The Empire needs new blood." She lifted her chin. "You will fail." Varrock laughed. "We already have the orbital cannons. Your father's fleet is locked out. Tomorrow we broadcast your execution. The whole galaxy will see. They will see the end of a weak line. Then they will accept us." Lyrael felt ice in her stomach. She said nothing more. They dragged her to a small cell under the chamber. Chains locked around her ankles. The door closed with a heavy clang. She sat on the cold floor. Her glow stayed steady, but inside she felt small. She thought of her father, her sisters, the palace gardens, and then she thought of Jake, the human who gave her a cracked crystal, the one who laughed at bad jokes, the one who treated her like a person, not a title. She closed her eyes. "I wish you were here," she whispered, "even though I know it's impossible." Far away, on Vexara Prime Station, Jake Harlan sat in his stall. The market noise filled the air as always. He worked on a small drone engine. His hands moved fast. His mind wandered. A news alert popped up on his old screen. He glanced at it. "Vorin Empire in chaos. Rebels seize Palace Moon. Princess Lyrael captured. Execution planned." Jake froze. The wrench slipped from his fingers. It clanged on the floor. He read again, then a third time. "Lyrael," he said out loud. He stood up. His heart beat hard. He paced the small stall. People walked past. No one noticed him. He thought of her visits, the way she smiled when she got a bolt tight, the way she asked questions like she really wanted to know, the way she said thank you like it meant something. Now she was going to die, on camera, for politics. Jake rubbed his face. "This is crazy," he muttered. "I'm nobody. I fix junk. I don't fight wars." But the thought would not leave. He saw her face in his mind, steady blue glow, tired eyes that lit up when she laughed. He looked around his stall. Tools, scrap parts, a beat-up freighter parked in docking bay 17. It was old. It leaked coolant sometimes, but it flew. He took a deep breath. "Okay," he said to the empty air. "Just go check. Make sure she's okay. That's all." He started grabbing things. A multi-tool, a small welding kit, some wires, a handheld scanner. He stuffed them into a bag. He went to his tiny room behind the stall. He pulled out a locked box under the bed. Inside was an old Earth Navy sidearm, small, reliable. He had not touched it in years. He checked the charge. Still good. He put on his heavy jacket. He left a message for his neighbor. Gone for a bit. Watch the stall. Then he walked to the docking bay. The freighter looked worse in the harsh lights. Rust spots, dented hull. But the engine still worked. Mostly. He climbed inside. The cockpit smelled like old oil and coffee. He sat in the pilot's seat. His hands shook a little as he started the systems. The station control voice came over the comm. "Freighter Harlan 9. You are cleared for departure. Safe travels." Jake pushed the throttle. The ship groaned, then lifted. It slid out of the bay into open space. He set course for the Vorin system. It would take days. He did not have a plan. He did not have an army. He did not even have a good reason, except one. Someone needed help. And he was the only one stupid enough to try. Back on the Palace Moon, Lyrael sat in her cell. She heard guards talking outside. "Tomorrow at dawn," one said. "The broadcast goes live across every channel." She stared at the wall. Her glow stayed even. She would not let them see her break. But deep inside, she felt a tiny spark of hope. Not big, not strong, just a whisper. Maybe someone out there still cared. Maybe. The stars outside the small window moved slow. The galaxy kept turning. And somewhere in the black, a small, battered ship flew toward the storm. One man inside, no hero, just a mechanic, who once gave away a cracked crystal, and now he flew to give back what he could. The small freighter shook as it dropped out of faster-than-light drive. Jake Harlan gripped the controls tight. The Voron system filled the front window. Bright stars, distant planets, and the palace moon glowing like a pale pearl. Red warning lights blinked on his dashboard. Rebel ships patrolled the outer orbits. Imperial loyalist fleets waited farther out, blocked by jamming signals. No one could get close without being seen. Jake turned off most of the lights in the cockpit to stay dark. He flew low and slow, hugging the shadow of a small asteroid field. His ship was old and quiet when it needed to be. He had patched the engines himself years ago, so they made almost no noise on approach. He talked to himself to stay calm. Just get in, check on her, get out. Easy. But he knew it was not easy. He found a weak spot in the defense grid, a maintenance lane used for supply drones. Old records from HFY Stories told him the codes changed only once a month. He guessed today's code from patterns he remembered. His fingers typed fast on the cracked keyboard. The lane opened. No alarms. He slipped through. The palace moon grew bigger. Towers rose like sharp teeth against the black sky. Smoke came from some lower levels. Fighting still happened inside. Jake landed the freighter in a hidden service bay near the bottom. The bay was dark and full of broken crates. No guards. The rebels probably thought no one would come this way. He grabbed his bag, multi-tool, scanner, small EMP device he made from scrap, and the old sidearm. He wore a plain worker jumpsuit he found in a locker. He pulled a hood low over his face. Then he moved. The service tunnels were narrow and dusty. Pipes hissed. Lights flickered. He followed the map in his head. Left, down 2 levels, right at the big cooling unit. Lyrael once told him about these tunnels when they talked about palace repairs. She laughed and said, "Even princesses know the back ways when they want to hide." He reached a grate that looked over a main corridor. Rebel soldiers walked below. They carried rifles. Their armor had red marks. Jake waited until they passed. He dropped down quietly. His boots made almost no sound on the metal floor. He moved fast through side halls. Twice he hid behind doors when patrols came close. Finally he reached the underchamber area. Heavy doors blocked the way to the cells. A control panel glowed next to them. Jake pulled out his scanner. He found the weak point, a backup power line. He cut it with the multi-tool. Sparks flew. The doors clicked open halfway. He squeezed through. Inside, the hall was dim. Only emergency lights glowed red. Cell doors lined both sides. Most were empty. Guards sat at a small desk at the far end, talking low. Jake crept closer, staying in shadows. He saw her. Lyrael sat on the floor of the last cell. Chains on her ankles. Her silver robe was torn. Her head rested against the wall. But her glow stayed steady. Soft blue. Calm. Even in this dark place. Jake's chest hurt to see her like that. He moved closer. One guard stood up to stretch. Jake froze. The guard walked past without looking, then sat again. Jake reached the cell door. It had a simple lock, old style, not fancy. He used the multi-tool to pick it. Click. The door opened a crack. Lyrael's eyes snapped open. She saw him. Her mouth opened in shock. "Jake?" she whispered. He put a finger to his lips. He slipped inside and closed the door behind him. He knelt and started working on the ankle chains. "You shouldn't be here," she said, voice shaking. "They will kill you." "Yeah, well," he said softly. Nobody else seemed to be stepping up. Figured I'd return the favor. She stared at him. Tears came to her eyes, but she blinked them away. "How did you even get here?" "Long story. Involves a lot of bad flying and one good guess." He popped the last chain. "There. Can you walk?" She stood slowly. Her legs shook, but she nodded. Yes. He looked at the door. We need to get out. But the broadcast starts soon. They're going to show the whole galaxy your execution. Lirel's face went hard. I know. They want to break my father. Break the Empire. Jake thought fast. Then we mess it up. He pulled out the small EMP device. This thing can overload their broadcast array if I get close enough. Turn their big show into static. Or better, show the truth. The truth? Security cameras. They record everything. If I hack the feed, I can send footage of their attacks. The dead guards. The servants they killed. Let the galaxy see who the real monsters are. Lirel looked at him for a long second. Then she nodded. The array is on the execution platform. But it's guarded. Guess we go quiet. They slipped out of the cell. Jake led the way back through the tunnels. Lirel followed close. She moved silent, like she had practiced hiding before. They reached a service lift. Jake hot-wired it. The lift rose slow and noisy. They stepped out onto the execution platform level. The platform was open to space on one side. Big windows showed stars. A raised stage sat in the center. Cameras pointed at it. Rebel technicians worked on the broadcast controls. Guards stood around. Jake and Lirel hid behind a stack of equipment crates. There, Jake whispered. He pointed to a side panel near the main array. That's the weak spot. I can reach it. But they will see you. Not if you make noise. Lirel understood. She took a deep breath. Be careful. She stepped out into the open. Stop, she shouted. Every head turned. Guards raised weapons. Technicians froze. Jake used the moment. He ran low along the wall, staying behind crates. He reached the panel. He opened it fast. Wires and circuits stared back at him. He worked quick. Cut one line, patch another, attach the EMP. His hands did not shake. He had fixed worse under fire in the old Navy days. On the platform, rebels surrounded Lirel. Lord Verac stepped forward. So the princess wants to die early? She lifted her chin. The galaxy will see what you really are. Verac laughed. They will see justice. Behind him, Jake finished. He pressed the button on the EMP. A soft pulse went out. No flash, no bang. Just a ripple in the air. The broadcast screens flickered. Then they changed. Instead of the execution stage, old security footage played. Rebels shooting unarmed servants. Rebels dragging bodies. Rebels laughing as they set fire to rooms. Clear, brutal, real. The technicians shouted, "What is this? Fix it!" But it was too late. The feed went live across the Empire. Every ship, every planet, every home screen. They saw the truth. Loyalist fleets outside the system saw it too. Their commanders gave orders. Engines roared. Ships turned toward the palace moon. Rebel ships hesitated. Some started to run. On the platform, guards looked confused. Verac yelled, "Shoot her!" But Jake was already moving. He ran out, sidearm in hand. He fired 2 quick shots, non-lethal stuns. 2 guards dropped. Lirel grabbed a fallen rifle. She pointed it at Verac. "It's over." Verac looked around. His men lowered weapons. The rebellion broke in minutes. Jake reached Lirel. Time to go. They ran back to the service lift. Alarms screamed now, but no one stopped them. They reached the hidden bay. The freighter waited. Jake started the engines. The ship lifted fast. As they broke orbit, the palace moon shrank behind them. Loyalist ships arrived. Rebel ships surrendered or fled. Lirel sat in the co-pilot seat. She looked at Jake. "You came for me?" He shrugged. "Couldn't let them win. Not after all those bad jokes you laughed at." She smiled. Small, tired, real. "Thank you." He looked at the stars ahead. "Don't thank me yet. We still gotta get out of here alive." The small ship flew into the dark. Behind them, an empire started to change. One man, One small good deed, and everything turned. The small freighter jumped away from the palace moon just as loyalist ships flooded the system. Bright flashes lit the black space behind them. Cannon fire, surrender signals, rebel vessels powering down. Jake kept the throttle open until the Vorin homeworld became only a tiny dot on the scanner. Then he let out a long breath and leaned back in the pilot's seat. Lirel sat beside him. Her torn robe hung loose. Chains had left red marks on her ankles, but her blue glow stayed steady and calm. She stared out the front window at the stars. Neither spoke for a long time. Finally, Jake broke the silence. "You okay?" She turned to him. "I am alive, because of you." He shrugged. "I just flew a junker and pressed a button. Anyone could have done it." "No," she said quietly. "No one else did." He gave a small smile. "Guess I drew the short straw." The ship's autopilot took over. Jake stood up and went to the tiny galley. He came back with 2 cups of hot water and some packets of human tea. He handed one to her. "Best I've got," he said. "No fancy palace stuff." She took the cup. The warmth felt good on her cold hands. She sipped. It tasted strange, bitter and earthy, but comforting. They sat together in the dim cockpit light. The hum of the engines filled the quiet. Liriel spoke first. "The broadcast worked. The galaxy saw what the rebels did. My father's forces are retaking the moon now. The coup is finished." Jake nodded. "Good. Means no more executions today." "But it is not over," she said. "Not really. My father will want answers. He will want to know how a human mechanic got inside his palace. He will want to know why I trusted you." Jake rubbed the back of his neck. "Tell him the truth. I gave you a cracked crystal once. You came back. We talked. I didn't like the idea of you dying on camera. Simple." She looked at him for a long moment. "It is never simple with my father." The journey back to neutral space took 3 days. They talked a lot. Liriel told him about the palace as a child, how she used to hide in the gardens when her sisters teased her. Jake told her about growing up on Earth's crowded cities, fixing broken scooters for pocket money, joining the Navy because it paid better than street work. They laughed at small things. They shared silence when the weight of what happened pressed down. On the 3rd day, a message came through the comm. "Imperial channel. Encrypted." Liriel opened it. The Emperor's face appeared on the small screen. His eyes looked tired. His voice was steady, but softer than usual. "Liriel, you are safe. The traitors are in chains. Return at once. We must speak." She hesitated. Then she answered, "I am coming home, father, but I will not come alone." The screen went dark. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Guess I'm invited to the party." She smiled faintly. "You saved the Empire. You do not get to hide in a workshop anymore." They landed on a neutral station first. Jake needed supplies. Lirael needed new clothes. She stepped out in simple gray robes, no crest, no jewels. For the first time, she looked like anyone else. They walked the markets together. No guards, no whispers. Just 2 people buying food and tools. Jake bought her a small necklace, a thin chain with a purple stone that looked like the cracked crystal he once gave her. He fastened it around her neck. "For luck," he said. She touched it. "I already have my luck." They left the station and flew to the palace moon. The landing bay was full of ships. Loyalist banners flew high. Guards stood in perfect lines. When the freighter touched down, a crowd waited. The Emperor stepped forward first. Behind him stood Lirael's sisters, courtiers, generals. All eyes on the old ship. The ramp lowered. Lirael walked down first. Her glow shone bright under the lights. The Emperor looked at her. No disappointment this time. Only something close to pride. Then Jake stepped out. Dirty coveralls, grease on his hands. No bow, just a nod. The Emperor studied him. You are the human. Jake shrugged. Guilty. The Emperor turned to Lirael. Explain. She stepped beside Jake. He gave me a crystal when no one else would. He taught me to fix things. He came alone when everyone else stayed away. He risked his life to save mine, and the truth of our empire. Murmurs moved through the crowd. The Emperor looked at Jake again. You want a reward? Gold? Land? A title? Jake shook his head. Nah, just want to go back to my stall, fix broken stuff, send money to my sister, quiet life. The Emperor almost smiled. You will have that, but you will also have a place here when you want it. As advisor, on human matters, Jake blinked. Advisor? Lirael spoke. The Empire changes now. We open doors to smaller worlds, to people like you. No more closed courts, no more blood over merit. You showed us what one small act can do. Jake looked uncomfortable. I'm no politician. You do not have to be, she said. Just be you. The Emperor raised a hand. The crowd went silent. Princess Lirael has proven herself strongest of all my children. She will lead the reforms. And this human, Jake Harlan, will stand at her side when he chooses. Cheers rose. Not forced. Real. Days turned to weeks. Lirael worked long hours. She met with nobles. She wrote new laws. She invited traders from Earth and other human colonies. She ended old punishments that hurt the weak. Jake stayed at first. He helped fix damaged systems in the palace. He taught young Voran engineers human tricks, how to make do with less, how to improvise. They listened. They learned. But soon he grew restless. The palace felt too big, too many eyes. One morning he found Lirael in the gardens. I'm heading back, he said. Got a stall to run. She nodded. She had expected it. I knew you would. He looked at the flowers. You okay here, with all this? I am, she said, because I know someone out there still sees me as just Lirael. Not a princess, not a symbol, just me. He smiled. Good. Keep that crystal close. She touched the necklace. Always. They hugged. Short, awkward, real. He walked to his freighter. Guards saluted as he passed. He waved them off. The ship lifted. The palace moon fell away. Back on Vexara Prime Station, Jake opened his stall again. Tools in the same places. Same smells. Same noise. Traders asked questions. Heard you saved the princess. Heard you stopped a war. He laughed it off. Nothing big. But sometimes late at night, when the market grew quiet, he looked at the cracked purple stone he kept on his shelf. He smiled. And far away in the palace, Lirael stood on a balcony. She looked at the stars. Her glow stayed steady. She ruled with kindness now. She listened to the small voices. She remembered one human who treated her like a person when the galaxy treated her like a flaw. The Empire changed slowly. Old houses lost power. New alliances grew. Humans visited more. Their ideas mixed with Voran ways. And through it all, one truth stayed. A small good deed, no crowns, no plans, no price, started everything. One cracked crystal, one kind hand, one stubborn mechanic who said, no charge. And everything changed. For the princess, for the Empire.